Hafade Guam. My name is Phil Leddy, Executive Director for the ActionPAC, and my special guest today is your senatorial candidate, Mr. Jon Savares. Hafade Jon, how are you doing?
Hafade Phil, Hafade ActionPAC, Hafade Guam. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for accepting our invitation to have this dialogue. And one of the main things about this podcast, this being our launch episode, is to really have the opportunity to speak with the candidates and have you, the candidate, give our general public the reasons and the information so they can be that knowledgeable voter when they do hit the polls, whether it's now during the early voting period or on the date of the primary election. So thank you again. And real quick, just let our general viewing audience know, ActionPAC was formed out of the need to play an active role in government beginning at the grassroots level. ActionPAC is made up of members from a cross-section of Guam society, representing all walks of life, and united in our belief that we can effect change through action. We welcome you to get to know us better, and we hope to help you get to know the candidates better. All right, so let's begin. So again, we're going to have you introduce your platform. So let's go ahead and start with, what are your 3 platform pillars? So
the pillars of my platform are actually my life story, because when I look at having a good platform, I'm a huge believer that it should be things that are very near and dear to your heart. And so the first pillar, right, is my mom is the mayor of Savares, the mayor of Delito. And I grew up, she's been the mayor of Delito for the last 22 years. I grew up in the backgrounds of the community, helping her clear roads. During typhoon, my wife and I go out and we even though it's condition 1 or whatever, or the eye is in the middle of the eye, to go reopen roads for emergency access. So these are things that have been, looking at the Mayor's Council of Guam and how we can actually streamline a lot of these processes that takes so much time to create, right? Like road to happen, road repairs, junk car removals, white goods. Every village suffers from these things, and every resident who comes to the office has an issue with a junk car, has an issue with a white good being just thrown somewhere. And these are the things that we need to actually fix, pay more attention to, and address in a more expeditious process, expedited process. Because if we don't do that, it's going to pile up. My mom jokes around where Delito has some of the most fertile soils on the island, where we grow junk cars and white goods. And that's just trying to make light of a negative situation. But the reality is we can't grow these things because in Delito, it's on the top of the Northern Aquifer. Second, I was medically retired from the United States Army, and going back and looking at what things that I was medically retired for, burn pits. Recently, there was an article that was the Senate just passed a bill to make sure that there's funding and research funding for burn pits, right? And where the VA is actually taking models and pushing this forward. I was retired with COPD. I was medically retired for COPD as one of my biggest things, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. I believe that the problems that we saw with the burn pits are gonna create the same problems that we saw that created Agent Orange, right? The spraying of permethrin and all these chemicals. And then a lot of our Vietnam veterans came back with Agent Orange, and now being find out that Agent Orange, cancer, diabetes. I believe that because of the burn pits, our veterans actually need to have a resource here. So what I want to do is ensure that every year that I'm in office, that we make sure I even if it has to come out of my legislative budget, where it's $5,000 or $10,000 would go into making sure there's verbiage for burn pits at all our veteran facilities on this island. Second, I've been a huge medical cannabis advocate. When I came back to Guam, I was unable to walk on my own. I was on a cane, about 70 pounds heavier, on a massive amount of narcotics, PTSD medication. And I'm no longer on those narcotics and those PTSD medications because of a medical choice that I made to become a medical cannabis patient. I want to make sure we streamline this process for veterans, because right now it's very difficult for people to find doctors here who would certify. This for veterans is actually even more crucial, because according to VHA Directive 1315, in order for veterans to move it from an illicit drug side, they would have to be part of a state-sanctioned medical cannabis program. And I want to make sure that we can do this. And how do we do this? How I intend to do this is taking their VA rating, which is a federally it's their rating. This is what puts money in their bank because of their disabilities, and they've been rated, evaluated by the federal government. I firmly believe I can do this through legislation where we can use that as the mechanism to get our veterans medical cannabis cards. And how do we, I want to take it even further, because a lot of licenses that we deal with on Guam for veterans are free. So I want to make sure that for our veterans, we don't charge them on any additional fees when it comes to this. And it's just consistent with other licensing mechanisms that we have. And the third part of my platform that I want to talk about, that I deal with, is, like I said, I've been advocating for medical cannabis reform and cannabis reform on Guam for the last 8 years. So what I believe in is a huge patient-focused cannabis industry. I've actually been working with Japan Medical Marijuana Association, trying to get their medical cannabis patients here for the last 5 years. And what they intend to do, and I want to actually take cannabis and not just make it a recreational industry. I want to kind of develop a new tourism strategy for medical cannabis patients to come here. And Japan alone, just a model from Japan, they're looking at 1.5 million. Their total patient network is 1.5 million people, and they want to commit 10% of their patient network to Guam, which is 150,000 people, for 2 to 4 weeks. This actually fills our hotel rooms for longer periods of time. This actually helps our restaurants in non-peak times, right? We're talking Monday to Wednesday, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, when tourists are going home. This changes it from a 2 to 4 day tourism dynamic to a 2 to 4 week tourism dynamic. And these are the 3 major areas of my platform that I want to focus on.
No, that's awesome, because you're absolutely right about shining some light on some of the holes within the VA. My father, he is going through VA treatment as well, and due to the pandemic, he has seen a few more hurdles than we firmly believe he should. And there's been quite a few delays and whatnot. So I commend that. And yeah, being a resident of Derecho, and growing up, I've seen nothing but great work coming out of the mayor's office in Derecho. So Viva Derecho. So thank you for sharing your 3 platform pillars. And one of the questions that we have during the podcast that we're going to ask the candidates is, what is one main focused item that you believe you can realistically accomplish in one term?
I believe that I can accomplish the rules and regulations in the term. I'm already working on it with the cannabis industry. I've been talking to the people who intend to be in the cannabis industry for the last almost this whole entire time that I've been advocating for cannabis reform. The people who, they were the ones who helped me walk. So they provided me medicine. And these people who want to get into this industry just want to help the industry. And by taking it and reevaluating the rules, right? Because Public Law 34-80, which is the medical cannabis rules and regulations, are already set in law, and then we just saw these rules and regulations lapse despite public outcry. What I want to do is take the best of both worlds and sit down with the industry and help them rewrite the rules so we can make sure that this industry is fruitful. And I think hopefully within the first 6 months of when I get in there, we can push a comprehensive cannabis rules and regulation package through. And this is realistically. Also, realistically, I will tell you that I am going to fix the medical cannabis patient home cultivation thing within the first 30 days that I'm in office, because currently, if a dispensary opens up, patients will have to stop growing their medication. And second, I'm going to make that first amendment to Public Law 33-220 to make sure that we can work on getting our veterans medical cannabis cards for free, as well as streamlining that process for them.
Great. Thank you for sharing that focus item. And in closing, Jon, we are going to ask ActionPAC. We are made up of the largest, I would say, business organizations in Guam, everything from the contractors to all the chambers, Hotel Restaurant Association, and GHRA. So in a sense, we are made up of the business organizations, but everyone knows businesses aren't businesses unless we have employees, which are the citizens of Guam. So how will you help our local business community during this economic recovery period?
So this is why I talk about Japan. And it's perfect for us to actually start to start developing a new vision for tourism, right? And add on top, not take away, but add on top of what we already have currently in place. And by creating a medical program, and I know that Korea, pre-pandemic, Korea has shown interest in this, as well as Taiwan. So now Japan is just a pilot. Korea and Taiwan, and moving more demographics, right? And what this does is it opens up a huge, as the cannabis industry builds to support these new tourism segments, all of these other entities, GHRA, the Women's Chamber, all these different chambers, right, at business organizations and entities are going to need to be there currently. It's going to boost their current infrastructure, the current needs that they have, because all the restaurants, all the hotel rooms, all the tours, all the stores, all of these things have to help support this industry. And as we build it and grow it, we're going to be able to influx more money and more money into these businesses, as long as we do this responsibly.
Excellent. So, I mean, do correct me if I'm wrong, but it does sound like you have a great understanding and support for business on island.
Absolutely. And the only way to that I believe that we can actually look at lowering our tax burdens right on our businesses is by creating new industry. And this is why I'm really pushing hard to boost this industry, because if we boost this industry the right way, then we can really look at the economic recovery, and then help look at the tax burdens that we currently face for the businesses, and then decrease this if we're operating with extra money in the bank. If the government is there to help the people and push out all the resources, not to make a profit at the end of the year. So if we're making a profit at the end of the year, we need to give that back in somehow, some way to the people who are just basically struggling, especially right now, because the effects of the pandemic can still be felt and seen throughout our island.
You're absolutely right, and we commend you for making that statement, because it's true, whether it be current business, new business, new industries, but or even try to revitalize those businesses that unfortunately shut down during the pandemic when times were really tough. That's really what we need to do together. Business community, government, and people and residents who call Guam home continue to have that dialogue and conversation. So I appreciate you being on our podcast today. And is there any closing remarks that you would like to tell to the people directly as they get ready to hit the polls?
I humbly ask for your consideration and your support. I'm number 6 on the Democratic side of the ballot. I'm here for the people, and I'm here to grow our community together. And I thank each and every one of you guys for listening and taking your time out of your day. Thank you, PAC. Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Guam. One love, everyone.
Excellent. Well, you guys heard it from him first. This is Mr. Jon Savares. He is vying for one of your votes in this primary, and in hopes to also get a vote in the general election. So do please register, then vote. If you are not registered yet, you can do it with a simple process online or in person. You can reach out to us at the ActionPAC at actionpacguam.com if you needed any help registering a vote. We thank you for tuning into our podcast today, and we hope to bring you more candidates in the near future. Adios.